Hello everyone and happy holidays. Paul here. I want to take a minute during break to sort of get caught up. I owe everyone a presentation on systems thinking, and I've put together a PowerPoint which has to do with some of the reading and some of my thoughts and applications regarding systemic thinking. And hopefully you can just kind of follow along, and I will definitely supply this PowerPoint. So I'm going to keep this video as brief as possible. I know it's very kind of lo-fi, which is ironic because I'm using all these digital devices to provide this information, but it still looks kind of like a VHS home recording from 1998. So anyway, without further ado, here's my thoughts on systems thinking. I want to preface it with the reading from Aronson. He says, so many important problems that plague us today are complex, involve multiple actors, and are at least partly the result of past actions that were taken to alleviate them. And that's something I tried to keep in mind throughout the reading, throughout the thinking, and as I apply it to kind of what's going on in my world right now. So I have 4 sections of this PowerPoint. I have examples, which is a reference to the reading, applications. And the applications is just into real life situations. Factors would be what factors kind of create problems within systems thinking and the solutions or outcomes. And then findings, which is sort of a why or how. So in the examples, this first slide in this section kind of shows from the reading that everything is systemic. I think this is from the Bartlett piece, but it looks complicated in a hurry. So again, you begin to notice there's a lot to digest. There are shortcuts via Bartlett's tricks. I kind of like those. Thorough examples, Barth's, where he talks about language and speech. And then one thing I really clearly notice is that systems thinking becomes kind of a tool. So the long and short of it, Bartlett kind of made a lot of sense to me. Simply putting that the systemic thinking process is straightforward. List as many elements as possible. Group the elements into sub-themes, and then find a central theme, or what you call the common. And it seems pretty straightforward. To sort of apply this into sort of what's going on right now, I've been trying to get through this really poorly written self-help book called The Mind-Made Prison. It's by I guess he's a retired engineer, and he alludes to a lot of this and refers to quite a bit of this discussion on systems thinking, and that everything is based on a system of beliefs, and then what he calls meta-beliefs, and just like this deeper and deeper seated thing that continues to kind of suggest trends and reasoning in our thinking. Why we do the things we do, why we worry about what we worry about, etc., etc. And I sort of applied some of that to this reading as I went along. It sort of helped me. This is clearly more scholastic and a little less zany and self-helpful, but there are many parallels, and I think it really kind of helped. Again, going back to Bartlett, he says, finally, it's worth noting that progress is better than perfection with systemic thinking. The benefit of the feedback generated when you trial a solution, conceptually or for real, is inestimable. So again, I think, looking at it as a tool, it works rather well, and you can come up with things, looking at it rather than just analytically, like you can find deeper meanings and trends as to why and how things are working the way they're working. And again, an aside is that you begin to notice, I think, more negatives than positives, but I don't know. I guess we'll have to see how it pans out. So a more winded approach would be Barth's. Uses, I think it's Séjour, who uses language as his primary example. And this explanation illustrates the idea of identifying different systems and their changes. So making it make sense. So I thought of this as troubleshooting. I look at systems thinking as a means to break or question the codes to which we stick, so dearly for various reasons, whether it's tradition, or history, or emotive, something that could make us do things the way we do them. But for example, language, speech, that in that paradigm. So in applications, if you refer back to this PowerPoint I have submitted with this presentation, you'll see an image of gifts, because 'tis the season. So let's look at giving gifts using this language speech example. Holiday gift giving exchange is, to me, a system, and I think it's more of the speech, the act of giving the gift within the holiday, which could be the language. And it includes several dialects, which would be emotions. You know, who do I get this gift for? Is it good enough? What are they going to think? How are they going to think of me afterward? Is this the perfect gift? There's so many different, questions, and it evokes a lot of emotion. And then, which can create pressure, which I saw as one of the problems he sort of talked about in the reading. So if we apply this to what I do at work in advertising and copywriting and design, we can look at these systems at work, and I noticed that there are several systems, and they're all interconnected, and they're usually quite limiting from a design standpoint. And just to sort of talk about this a little bit, it's the same as with the gift giving, that emotive, reactionary thing to not just a action or reaction, but we have these whole set of beliefs and within a system that kind of makes us think a certain way. For instance, if a client doesn't want to use blue as a color palette, but we found that it works best for the brand or the campaign we're working on for them. Maybe we don't know why they don't want to use blue. It could be they did in their last campaign and it was a total disaster, and maybe from that now they have this fear of losing another account, or maybe being demoted, or maybe having their team disrespect them, or maybe kind of distrust them a little more and not want to work as hard. There's so many things going on, and a lot of times you think it's got to be this, or people kind of throw around these terrible words like look and feel and kind of misuse everything. My kind of is how I feel about it, but you look at it and there really is a system, and things are working in order to get from A to Z here. So if you kind of look at that and try to figure out what's going on and why these problems exist through these systems, I think we can get into the factors section. I call these systemic slumps. So several factors of these slumps would be fear, worry, tradition, history, and even other systems, I think, can create these slumps, and that it gets in the way of, let's say, for the sake of this course, it gets in the way of creating great design, or maybe coming up with the best possible solution, or maybe generating innovation, or creating a higher, more useful type of thinking. So a lot can get in the way, I think, as we look at each system. And in my findings, in some, I guess, systemic thinking can be used as a tool to help determine if and where a break in the system is needed to push forward better innovations, better understandings, and better design. So sort of the rundown, the rather quick lo-fi rundown. I thank you for all of your time. I thank you for letting me make this up. Things have been chaotic, and they're slowing down a little bit as the ice forms on the roads and we get to slower moving. Hopefully all of you have power and are either on your way to a wonderful destination, or maybe are already there. And I hope you have a wonderful holiday. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you when we get back, as well as going over thesis, kind of sharing mine and hearing yours. So cheers, everyone, and we'll see you next year. Thank you.